G'day. Family and I have come down to Dunsborough for the week for a family holiday. And this evening we've come down to Wadenup to see if we can catch a landscape photo. Here we are down on the water. Now, for those of you who have watched my videos for a while, you'll know that I've actually done a video down at Wadenup already. It was around about a year ago. That was early in the morning, so the sun was rising behind me. We're in the afternoon or the evening now, so the sun's actually going to be setting in front of me or slightly to my right. We're actually not going to be taking a shot in the same spot. That's the fantastic thing about Wadenup. That's probably why I love it so much, is that there's so many interesting compositions. So what we've done is we've come slightly further south of where I took the image before to this little rock cove here. And we're hoping to get a nice image here. We've got some beautiful green rocks, which I'm going to talk about in a second, but it looks like a really interesting spot. I need to keep on watching the waves, of course, because as they're coming in, I don't want to put myself in any danger. I haven't brought my Nikon D800 on this outing. Instead, I'm going to be using my Fuji X-T2, and I've got the 10-24 on the front of that. I've been taking the X-T2 out for a while, taking landscape photos with it, but I haven't actually done a vlog using the X-T2, so that's what we're going to do tonight. And I'll share with you my experience in taking landscape shots with this particular camera. Pretty much got myself set up for my first shot here. I got a line of green rocks around to my left-hand side to a crop of rocks in the middle of the sea, which is going to draw the viewer's eye to that point. Again, I've got the 10-24 lens on. Keep in mind that the X-T2 is a smaller sensor, so that's equivalent to around about a 15, 16 mil through to about a 35. And I've got it pretty wide, so I've got it at 10 mil. So that's trying to get in this entire scene. On the front, I've got the polarizer, and I've also got a 0.9 soft graduated filter. Now these are the same size filters that I've been using with my larger Nikon lenses. And all I've done to be able to use the same mount on the smaller lens is grab a different mount adapter. So I've got a 72mm mount adapter. With my Nikon I use a 77mm. That enables me to clip the mount, which holds the polarizer at the front and the filter in one of the slots here, and it clips straight on like so to the front of the lens. That's what's so good about these systems, is to be able to adapt them to a different lens size. You grab a different mount adapter. So with that set up at the front of my lens, I'm on f14 at the moment. I started off at f11, but I just dialed it down to f14 just to take off a little bit more light, and that's given me a shutter speed of about 1/4 of a second. So the sort of image that I'm going for with 1/4 of a second is I'm waiting for a wave to come in and crash over these rocks just in front of me, and I'm just firing the shutter off just at that point in time. So I should be able to capture some of the lines of the waves, the patterns of the water as it sprays up against the rocks. That's the sort of image I'm going for at the moment. Let's see how we go. So with that shot taken, I'm just going to move around to another location. One of the advantages that I've noticed very, very quickly with the X-T2 is the weight and obvious size difference between the Fuji camera and the Nikon D800. It's just so much lighter. It allows me to get around these rocks so much easier. The backpack, you might notice I've just got a much smaller backpack that's got all of my equipment in there. It's just a lot easier to move around, particularly in difficult terrain like these rocks and mountains and hills that I've got to climb and get over. So that's an obvious advantage. I've come around a little bit to my left, so I'm in the middle of this bay. The sun sets in around about 10 minutes. But unfortunately, we're not going to get a sunset because the cloud has moved in from the south and is covering the sun and the horizon. Just in the sky, there's just parts of the clouds that are just picking up a little bit of colour. So hopefully that'll come out on the image. In front of me, there's these rocks, and that's going to be the main focus of the image. I've still got the polarizer on the lens, and the polarizer is there to take any glare off the surface of the water or the wet rocks in front of me. And the 0.9 soft graduated filter is still on the lens as well, and that's just to take a little bit of light out in the sky. Taking the light out in the sky means that I can bring up the exposure by slowing down the shutter speed and get a little bit more detail in the rocks in front of me. And given that that's the main focus of this image, that's an important thing to do. I'm perched up here on a rock, and that brings me to one of the other advantages of the X-T2 that I've found, and that is the flip out screen. It doesn't flip right round, but at least it flips up. So I'm pretty much right on top of the camera here, and I've got the screen facing up towards me. Otherwise I'd have to be on the rock behind me, crouching down. It would be really uncomfortable. Here I'm right next to the camera, and instead of having to crouch down and try and look at the screen as it's mounted at the back of the camera, I've got the screen flipped up so I can look right over the top. Given that the light is starting to fade as the sun's starting to go down, I've been able to change my f-stop to f11. I'm still at 1/4 of a second. I wouldn't mind moving that to 1/2 a second just to get a little bit more movement in the waves as they crash over the rocks here. What I'm waiting for is just the right wave to hit those rocks, and then I'll take the shot again and I'll show you. So the light is now really starting to disappear. The sun has now gone below the horizon. So from now on, it's just going to get darker and darker. I've been able to bump my shutter speed up to 1 second now, and very soon it'll be 2 seconds. So what I'm doing is going for a slightly different image. Instead of timing the shot so that I take the shot when the waves hit the rocks, I'm waiting for the water to come up over the rocks and then start to drain out. So I'm starting to get a little bit of a milky effect against the rocks. So that approach gives me a different effect in the image. Let me know in the comments below which one you prefer. One of the other advantages of the X-T2 are the dials. The fact that I can dial in my ISO, my shutter speed, I can change my exposure just using the dials across the top is fantastic. And of course the aperture can be controlled with the aperture ring on the lens. That sort of tactile approach I really appreciate. Photography for me is very much about experience, and I enjoy that tactile approach to photography, being able to see at a glance all of my settings instead of necessarily having to go through menus or look at the screen. And sure, it's harking back to what photography used to be like, but I think it's a little bit more than that. For me, being able to see all of my settings at a glance and be able to change or configure those settings so quickly with those physical dials is just great, and I just love that about the X-T2. video was never meant to be a comprehensive review of the X-T2. What I did want to share with you was how much I'm enjoying using the X-T2 and the sort of features that it has that I think makes my life as a landscape photographer much easier and really enjoyable. And that's what photography is about. It's about enjoying your experience being in the outdoors. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you use the X-T2 and you've got your own feedback, then please comment in the comments below. If you're new to my channel and you enjoy this sort of content and you want to see more of it, then please consider subscribing, and if you do, hit the notification bell so you're notified when I upload my next video. But until next time, thanks very much for watching.